Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I am standing on a yoga mat. If you don't have one, a carpeted area that's not too slippery is going to be totally fine. I think it's probably going to be easiest if you situate your mat so the short edge is facing me. I'm going to be moving my mat around, and I've actually got it a little bit more sideways today because of the things that we're going to do today so that you can see me best. It would be good to have a chair. We're actually going to play with a few different variations of things, and one or two will involve a chair as a possibility. The other thing I highly recommend are a couple of tall blocks. Again, we're going to play around with variations of things, and I'll be really carefully instructing the props today. We're going to focus on the props quite a bit. A blanket or a folded beach towel is sort of the last of our accoutrements that I think that you may really want to have for this practice. And then you'll stand with your feet hip distance apart, and we'll meet, as we so often do, in our mountain. It's here that we stop so that we can start. Soft bend to your knees, your chin's parallel to the ground. Palms turn away from one another, and we stack ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels. Think of gazing at your bright horizon. That will help your chin stay parallel to the ground and your spirit stay lifted. And lastly, and maybe even more important than all the rest, bring your awareness to your breath. Let your breath come in and out through your nose. Think of the arrows of attention pointing inward instead of distractedly outward. It's not about the sound of an incoming email or text. It's the sound of your breath, the feeling of your body in the earth as the crown of your head extends like the peak of a mountain to the sky. Adding some movement here. Inhale, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, just float your arms along your side, palms face out. 2 more times. Inhale, arms out and up, a slight bend in your knees as a buffer, and then exhale, float your arms along your side. 1 more time. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, float the arms along your side, and then adding on, inhale, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips for our sun salutation. Hands come to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips a little, and then inhale, arms out and up, a V shape overhead. And exhale, arms along your side, palms face out. Again, inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands come to your thighs. Inhale, heart extends forward. Exhale, a little bit more hinge at the hip, and then inhale, arms out and up, a V shape overhead. Stand into your mountain. Last one of our sun salutations. Inhale, arms out and up. Exhale, fold. Hands to thighs. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hip crease. Inhale, arms out and up, taller than you've been yet, and then float your arms along your side. Palms turn out, and you stand in your mountain. This is the first part of assembling our props. And I'm actually going to turn my mat a little bit more sideways so that you can see me better. Now, this is one technique. So you can use your chair in the middle of your mat. That's going to be one prop that you might use for what we're doing. Another thing that you might do, and I want you to be very careful about the construction of it, so that's why I'm actually pausing here to show you. You might take 2 blocks, put one its lowest, and put the other on top of it so it's very sturdy. I don't want anything that feels a little bit like it's gonna wobble and fall. But this will give you almost the same height as your chair base, so it's a direction to move in. That doesn't mean that it's the direction that you go today, and it also depends on what you have available to you for props. If you've got a thin little book here, that's gonna make me nervous. So I would say the base of your chair would be the better way to go. So we'll set this contraption up, or the base of your chair, or even just one tall block here at the far edge of your mat. Facing the right long edge of your mat, step out, thumbs to the sky, and it's basically ankles underneath wrists. That is our alignment here. Turn your right leg out, and sometimes if you bring your hands onto your hips, you can feel at the hip joint your right leg is turning out, your right foot faces that short edge of your mat, and then as a test drive, bend your front knee. I almost always need a little bit more space because we want to have a vertical line from your right knee to your right ankle. Now straighten the front leg, V shape overhead, press into the right big toe mound, bend your front knee, stamp that right heel into your mat. We're doing that 2 more times. Inhale slowly, V shape overhead, and then exhale, bend your front knee. Last one, inhale, V shape, no scrunching of shoulders into ears, and then bend your front knee, and here we are in Warrior 2. Your back leg is strong, that thigh bone presses into the hamstring like our mountain pose. Now, oftentimes, at least with me, the way that we do this side angle is we take a karate chop of our right forearm across our thigh and left arm up to the sky. There's nothing wrong with this variation. It's perfect. Let your right hip hug underneath you so we're not folding forward, and we always want to be careful that our head stays above our hips. It could be that you take your right hand onto the base of your chair, or that you find this little like Lego contraption of blocks that we found. Put it on the outside, closer to your heel than your toes, and then right hand goes on the block. So maybe just a tall block is okay for some of us. The goal is not that you're trying to get your hand close to the ground. What we want to do is keep the majesty of our mountain, and then just have a few tricks up our sleeve that make it interesting. So every day is a little bit different. Every warrior is a little bit different. Stay for a few breaths, just like this. Playing with props, and I think play in our practice is so important. So why not play around with our toys a little bit too? Now slowly, with your belly firm, come upright in your warrior pose, mindfully straighten that front leg, lower your arms and turn all of your toes to face the long edge of your mat. Turn your left leg out, cheat your right heel back. If you need to, heel, toe, and step together first to move your props. So actually, I'm gonna have to do that. Let's do that. To move our little contraption, or to move our chair and our chair base. So we always wanna set ourselves up for success, you know? Not just on our mat, off our mat too, don't you think? And then find ankles underneath wrists. Turn your left leg out once you have all your toys in place. Right heel cheats back, and then we'll just bend like an experiment and make sure that it's a vertical line, and then inhale, V shape overhead. Bend your front knee. This could be an exhale. Inhale, arms in a V shape overhead. Last one, bend the front knee, and then let your thumbs be to the sky. Keep hugging your left hip underneath you. First, we'll visit our usual fare. So left forearm across the thigh, right arm to the sky. And I bet a number of us are gonna stay like that. Especially if there aren't props in your house, then this is perfect. It can be done anywhere, anytime. Keep your left hip hugging underneath you, maybe playfully. Left hand on that block, or the base of your chair. It could be the 2 stacked blocks, so long as it doesn't make me nervous with its wobbliness. Or it could be a tall block, and then we'll stay with it. Try to stamp a little awareness into your left heel. still. We have no shoulders scrunching into ears. We're just aware of like a little subtle difference when we use props differently, even though we're doing the same pose. And we're a little bit different every time we do the same pose, so that really is advanced yoga, is being able to see the tiny stuff, not just the big stuff. 2 moments here. Firm through your feet and your belly, come upright, thumbs to the sky, straighten your front leg, and then very slowly turn all toes to face the long edge of your mat. And I think we learned, or at least I learned on the first side, that I need to heel toe so that we can move props around. There's a style of yoga called Iyengar, and they use so many props and they always stop and set up. So we'll pretend like we're doing Iyengar today with our mindful prop setup. So move your contraption or your tall block or the base of your chair. Step wide again. Once you've got all your toys in place, turn your right leg out, cheat your left heel back. We're headed to triangle. That's not side flexion. Get a little sass, so stick your left hip out. It's a hinge at the hip. Reach out and then find your tower of power underneath your right hand. Left thumb is to the sky. It's like we're spinning our inner upper arms away from each other and creating some space between our shoulders and our ears. We're not locked out in the front leg. Although it's straight, if you press into your right big toe mound, you're going to get a little tiny bit of bend, and that's a good thing because it's actually where you feel your muscles start to work. We want the muscles to work. Stay for a few moments of stillness and breathe. Really great. 2 more moments. Now firm through your feet and your belly. Come all the way upright. Turn all your toes to face the long edge of your mat. Let's heel toe so that we can be at the ready to move props around so that they're in position for our triangle. And today it's try, like T-R-Y, trying new things, right? Turn your left leg out, cheat your right heel back, thumbs to the sky. Remember, now the sass is that your right hip is sticking out a little bit. It's a hinge at the hip. You reach out and find the base of your chair. You find your stacked blocks or maybe just one tall block. And then let the bottom ribs feel inspired to get long. So again, it's not the side flexion and it's not sub-obsession of trying to get our hand low, because that's going to make it very hard to find the clean hinge of the hip, the length of the bottom ribs. And remember, it's the little stuff, not the big stuff. So often, especially when people are new to yoga, I see them desperate to try to touch the ground. And that's not the point of it. We want to create space. Space in our bodies, and then I think the most advanced part, space in between the thoughts in our head. Let's try that advanced part for a couple of moments here. Really great. Slowly with a firm belly, come all the way upright. Thumbs to the sky, turn all your toes to face the long edge of your mat. We'll heel toe again because we've got a little bit of prop preparation. Now, many of you are going to take your chair and turn it in front of you so that the base is available for your hands. I'm not going to do that because you're not going to be able to see me if I do it. But imagine that your chair is where I'm also going to show you that you can use blocks. So here we are in our, tip of the hat to the Iyengar people who take this time to make props happen. And by the way, you can always take the time to use the props when we're practicing. We just happen to be deconstructing that a lot today. So with the base of your chair on this long edge of your mat, or your 2 tall blocks, I don't have enough blocks to do that stack on top of things, so I think we'll be okay here with either the base or the chair. Now step not quite as wide as we were, so your ankles are kind of to the inside of your wrists when you take your arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. We'll put a little bit of bend in our knees. Now this I want you to be really, really aware of. I don't want your head to go lower than your hips. I say that often, but in this pose, it may take a little more reminder. We're gonna hinge at our hips like we do in our sun salutation, and we're long through the spine, and then we take our hands either to the blocks or to the base of the chair. So it just takes us a little bit deeper than when we do this sometimes with our hands here at our on our thighs, and you could stay here with your hands on your thighs today. I just want you to know you have a variety of options. You're the expert, I'm the guide, and the guide today has a few more suggestions. So hands to blocks or base of chair, low belly lifting, little bit of bend in your knees, so much length through your spine. It could be that you work the legs a little bit towards straight, but remember, we want to work muscles. We're not interested in locking the legs out. And as you straighten your legs, you have to be careful because that's when your spine is going to try to collapse and your head's going to try to go lower than your hips. So find a sweet spot. Meditate here for just a few moments. You're doing a great job. I'm throwing a lot at you today. Now on the way out, we always want to think of the transitions sort of like the prop setup being just as important as the held pose. So firm through your belly. Take your hands off the base of your chair or your blocks and onto your hips. Go slow as you come up. Just make sure everything is okay. Pause. Conscious heel toe, hip distance with our feet. And then just as mindfully, we will move our props off to the side. And we may want to use those props to come to the floor. So if you want to use the base of your chair or use your blocks, just gently, easy does it, come on down. Now I'm going to turn even more sideways to you to show you the next part. And you will be on a long edge of your mat, or if you're not using a mat, just know that you need a little space side to side. It's sort of like our Warrior II stuff that we just did. Now, the first thing is to come kneeling, and this is where I would bet a number of us are going to carefully place our prop, our folded blanket, in the middle. Mine is a little scrunched up. It was like the Princess and the Pea with with my blanket. So we're kneeling, my toes are curled under. I would highly recommend that. Stay on your right knee, just step your left foot out to the side, and your toes are pointing forward, V shape overhead. Now here's what we don't want. We're not going to let this collapse happen. Think about our triangle pose that we just did. Come up and up and up, right? Hug that hip underneath, and then start to turn your left foot so it's pointing towards the left side of your mat. Now it will be a little hinge at the hip. Place your left hand onto your leg, or you can use your block. What I don't want if you're using your hand on your leg, I don't want you to push onto your leg. So it can just come to that hip hinge, thumb to the sky, or hand onto your block. It's like we're doing a triangle pose on our right knee. For just a couple of moments. Your left foot is facing towards that short edge of your mat. Now come upright. Turn your left foot so that it's facing now the long edge of your mat. Move your block off to the side. Start to align it so that you now have your right knee and shin and your left foot all in a middle line. So maybe you can see me here. Imagine there's a line down your mat right on the middle of it, and you want your left foot, your right shin and your right knee, and then your right hand all on that middle line. Hug your right hip underneath you. Now it feels a little bit like we're revisiting our Warrior II pose, but in a different angle. Take your left hand onto your left hip. Really make sure that your hand is spread wide, that you've got a very good anchor, and then know that this is variation number 1, and you can stay with it. Maybe thumb to the sky has your name on it. That's good too. For a very few of us, it might be interesting to hug that right hip underneath and float your left leg straight out of your hip and back behind you. Don't feel pressured to lift your leg. If you're looking at the ground, it's going to help orient you a little bit. And gazing points are a little bit like props. If you look out to the side, it's more challenging. So it's up to you. Just a couple moments here. Remember, triangle today is TRY. We're just trying some new things. Stamp your left foot down. Take your left hand onto your hip. And then we'll exit by bringing your left hand down, your left knee down, and then just walk to face the long edge of your mat and bring yourself back up to kneeling and check in and make sure everything is okay. I'll move my block to the other side. Some of you are going to use a block, some of you may just have the hand in the hinge of the hip, and that's fine, it's perfect. Now we will kneel on our left leg and take the right foot out to the side. It starts with all the toes facing forward so that we can just feel that we're organized to grow tall, that we don't crumble into it and then make our way into things. We're thinking of the majesty of our mountain, and we're thinking a little bit about triangle pose. Now, turn your right leg so that your right foot is facing that short edge of your mat, and it's that feeling of triangle in your right hip now. Thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Now start to hinge and take your hand either onto your thigh with the left thumb to the sky, or you might take your hand onto the block. If that feels too far away, then just careful here where you're not shoving into the leg, but you're just finding a little stretch into the hamstring, a little bit of triangle that we're trying on our knee, and then a few moments here. The actual name of this pose is gate pose, just in case it comes up at a party. Not that anybody goes to a party during a pandemic, but this is our party here. Now turn, so first come upright, turn your toes forward to the long edge of your mat. Now place your hands so that you can swing that left shin carefully, and you now have basically left knee, left shin, right foot, all on a middle line, left hand comes down. It takes a second to kind of get this coordinated, and it's fine, for me too. You can have your left toes curled under if that's helpful. Hug your left hip underneath and turn your chest open so it feels a little bit like kind of sort of the warrior two that we did. Your left hand is spread wide, so you know that you've got like, you're almost holding on to the ground underneath you. And it might be that some of you take your right thumb to the sky, a V shape. Maybe one or two, lift that right leg and pause. So it's not about trying to rush to lifting the leg. You just want to find a place where it makes sense for you. And remember, the bottom toes can be curled under. If you're looking at the ground, it will be a lot easier to find balance than if you're trying to look sideways. But maybe you want the challenge. So many different ways to do things. Now if you lifted your leg, just stamp that foot back down again. And for all of us, our dismount is right hand down, right knee down, and we're on hands and knees. You may already have your blanket in the mix because it was underneath your knees. If you don't, this is a very good time to grab your blanket, and then we will sit with the bottoms of our feet together, but situated, I would say, on top of your blanket. And you can fold your blanket tall. Maybe you even have a pillow or a cushion from your couch instead. So since we're really focused on props today, I want to give you all the various variations. Some of you will use your blocks underneath your thighs. Place the bottoms of your feet together. Your knees open out to the side. You're perched on your blanket or your cushion or pillow, And if it feels like it's a lot on your knees, then you have blocks or your books maybe underneath your thighs. What I want for us to find is fingertips on the ground, a tall spine, a little sense of opening, a little bit of stretch into the inner thighs, right? And the hips are actually rotating in the hip joint. And we'll take a few moments here. Try to grow tall through your spine and feel rooted into the earth at the same time. Your inhale can be where you feel length through your spine. And your exhale is where you're rooted into the ground. So the sit bones rooted into your folded blanket or cushion. Take a few moments here. You can close your eyes or just soften your gaze. You may want to help this along. Take your hands onto the outer thighs. Draw your knees together. Just stay on your perch. Extend one leg carefully, then the other out in front of you. You want your sit bones on your perch, so you might scooch up like I just did. And there are a couple ways that you can do this. You can have your feet all the way together or hip distance. You could employ your blocks once again and take them tall to either side, and then just move them a bit forward so that as we sort of fold here, again, it's hinge at the hip, elongation through the spine, not rounding and trying to get our face to our legs. And then you'll find where there's a little sensation of stretch. That could just be fingertips on the ground. A couple moments here. Slowly come upright, move your blocks. A couple of options because we're trying all kinds of things today, right? You could sit and meditate to close the practice. You can lie down on your back, as we often do, for Shavasana, final meditation. Some days one might feel better than the other, and that's what you want to really develop with your yoga practice. It's what's called intuitive, meaning it comes from you. It's you're the expert, I'm the guide. And so you really do you every time. Find your way into our final pose. Either spread out across the floor or sit into your meditative seat. A full minute of silence to rest and digest. Really great. If you're in Shavasana final meditation on the floor and you want to stay longer, please feel free to do that. And the same with your seated meditation. To find your way out of Shavasana, bend your knees, place your feet on the ground, go slow, and roll to either side. Come up and join us in some sort of comfortable seat. Once you're seated, palms up or down in your lap. Maybe you take the spirit of try off your mat and into the world. Be willing to try new things. Sometimes it makes the things that we thought we knew brand new. To me, that's the yoga. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us trying it all again together soon.